Lucid dreaming is the ability to know you're dreaming when you're dreaming. And all indications are that it's quite trainable, that the average person can actually learn how to do this with the proper training. There's some great websites on the internet that will teach you how to do it. The question is, if you're applying the basic mindfulness system in a dream, well, what are the sensory categories that you're dealing with? Are the sights that you see in the dream actually to be labeled as image? How about the, what seems to be touch and so forth? Are the sounds really sound or are they talk? Okay. It does sort of make sense as a question because what's going on in the dream is clearly not based on external physical stimuli usually. So it's very easy. I can tell you from my own experience, applying the 5 ways, working with touch, sight, sound, feel, image, talk, etc. Essentially, you can consider the dreaming world to be the same as the waking world. So if it seems to you that you're looking at an external sight, even though that's generated obviously from the inside because you're dreaming, you name it as sight. So the dreaming world is like the waking world. There are touch, sight, sounds. There can be internal talk. Theoretically, there could even be mental images, sort of images inside images in a sense. So the upshot is that consider the dreaming world to be like the waking world and apply the techniques as you would in the waking world. Essentially, what happens to meditators is that whoever they are in their waking life, that's who they are in their dream life. Since they are meditators in their waking life, they can also be meditators in their dream life. And the same techniques that you would apply in the waking life, you apply in the dream life. So it just carries over exactly. So I label the things that I see in my dreams. If I'm intentionally meditating in my dream and I see something, I don't label it as image. I label it as sight. And it's amazing, if I physically contact an object, I'll be thinking to myself, and of course that thinking is talk, right? I'll be thinking to myself, okay, I'm dreaming, so I'll touch this object, what happens? Okay, well, it's touch. It seems like touch in the external world. But then when I remember that I'm dreaming, I say to myself, oh, but since this is dream, actually, I should be able to put my hand through this solid object. And as soon as I have that talk, I can, okay? And the solid object just sort of becomes like clay or something like that. And I can actually ghostly move my hand through it, which I can't do in the physical world. So that is a difference. But it's still touch until it starts to behave weird. But I just take that as a sign of flow, okay? It's like much easier to get flow phenomenon. Normally, you can't get too much flow phenomenon in touching a physical wall. You can get a little bit of it, but the sight and the touch is usually fairly solidified in the waking world unless you're in a really, really deep state. But in the dream world, at least for myself, when I remember that I'm dreaming, then the touch and the sight just like instantly melts and turns into flow and whatever. I've also discovered that I consider smells and taste to be sort of part of touch. And you certainly can get smell and taste in a dream. It can be very interesting, actually. I was once in this dream and I was climbing this tree. And I said to myself, okay, let's make this tree edible. I want this tree to be made of Turkish delight. And it immediately turned into Turkish delight, and I started to eat like vast quantities of the Turkish delight tree that I was climbing. And it was like, I could taste it. It was like, it tasted just like Turkish delight in the real world. except it was in the dream and there was a certain degree of control because you could just think it and it sort of becomes what you want. So the point in meditating in your dreams, by the way, is not to play games like what I just described. The point is that when you're in the dream state, you're deep in consciousness, and it's a wonderful venue to explore the standard techniques. They all work. Any of the 5 ways you can apply just the way you do in the waking world, you can apply it in the dreaming world. And then you're making productive use of that dream time. It's optimal use of your time. You're getting meditation mileage out of it. So that would be my answer to that question.